Northwest Now is supported, in part, by viewers like you. Thank you.
4 ballot measures threaten to cancel some of the biggest pieces of progressive lawmaking in Washington state history. The right says it's about trusting the marketplace and lowering the burden on overstressed taxpayers. The left say repeals threaten the planet and billions of dollars of new revenue that fund schools, climate resilience, and health care. The Let's Go Washington slate of ballot measures next on Northwest Now. Very few elections in this state are competitive or likely to change the balance of power at any level of government. But the Let's Go Washington slate of ballot initiatives have the potential to solidify this state's bona fides as a progressive thought leader or sharply repudiate a left-leaning agenda that some say has gone off the rails. Initiative 2109 would repeal the state's capital gains tax, which could bring in as much as $2 billion a year. 2117 repeals the state's carbon tax, which could pump billions into education, school construction, early learning, and child care. 2124 repeals the mandatory payroll deduction for the state's long-term care insurance program, instead requiring taxpayers to opt in. And 2066 repeals the disincentives passed to discourage the ongoing use of natural gas. Steve Kiggins now with more on Let's Go Washington.
He said, hey, I'm going to do it.
Families in Seattle's Wedgwood neighborhood gathered this month sharing resolve to protect what makes Washington the evergreen state.
Now, all these people.
Organized by Tree Action Seattle, neighbors mourned the fate of multiple cedars slated for removal. Developers received city approval to cut down about a dozen trees behind this fence on a property near Wedgwood Elementary to make room for new homes.
I can't change what's happening next door.
Neighbor Susan Mills believes Seattle's newly updated tree ordinance is flawed, saying future construction threatens our urban forest. She worries the project next door could injure the cedars in her own yard.
So this one here, and then there's a really big one in the back by our garage. And we realized that it was noted that our trees were going to be damaged by the construction. And the city again said, there's nothing you can do.
You can go to...
Sandy Shetler helps organize with Tree Action Seattle when development includes clear cuts.
They're standing up for trees in their own neighborhoods because we are seeing this kind of deforestation.
She says that's why Tree Action Seattle joined a large and growing coalition opposing Initiative 2117.
I have no faith in their ability to administer $2 billion.
Brian Haywood, the wealthy hedge fund manager sponsoring Let's Go Washington's initiatives, laid out his support for I-2117 to the Seattle Times editorial board in August. I-2117 repeals Washington's landmark climate legislation that requires industry to reduce pollution and funds clean energy, air quality, transportation, and many other projects. Haywood blames high gas prices on the legislation, telling voters approving the initiative puts power and money back into their own hands. But detractors warn the initiative derails the state's attempt to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 95% by mid-century.
We can't afford the cuts to transportation, we can't afford the damage to our environment, and we can't afford to not have a plan to address climate change.
Groves are the answer to our climate resilience challenge.
Okay.
That's why Shetler rallies communities when trees are threatened, and why Seattle Tree Action urges voters to reject I-2117.
We cannot simply go back and think that that will solve the problem.
In Seattle, Steve Kiggins, Northwest Now.